he didn't hear his own thoughts first. He heard someone else thinking about him, clearly, repeatedly, like a voice that didn't belong to his mind but knew exactly where to find it. And if you're someone who believes thoughts are private, you might want to stay with this story, because this one wasn't trying to stay hidden. It was the autumn of 1904, in a quiet district of London where people lived close enough to hear each other speak through walls, but far enough apart to believe their inner lives remained untouched. And in a narrow upstairs room lived a man named Rowan Ellithorpe, a man who had always trusted one simple thing, that whatever happened inside his mind belonged only to him. That belief didn't survive long. It began quietly, not as a voice, not as a sound, but as a thought. That didn't feel like his. He had been sitting near the window, watching the street below, when something crossed his mind so clearly it startled him, not the content, but the tone of it. It didn't form the way his thoughts usually did. It arrived, already complete. He's looking again. Rowan didn't react immediately. He assumed it was his own observation, just phrased differently. But something about it lingered, not the meaning, the ownership. Because it hadn't felt like thinking, it had felt like hearing. He shook it off, turned away from the window. But moments later it came again. Still there, just watching. This time, he froze. Not because of what it said, but because he hadn't thought it. He was certain of that. His thoughts didn't repeat like that. They didn't arrive already shaped, and they didn't feel separate. That was the moment something shifted, not outside, inside. Because if a thought could exist without belonging to him, then it had to belong to someone else. The next few hours passed slowly, but the pattern didn't stop. The thoughts returned, always about him, always observing him, always slightly detached, as if whoever was thinking them wasn't speaking directly to him, but about him. He's noticed something. Not yet, but soon. Rowan stood up abruptly, his chair scraping softly against the wooden floor. His chest tightened, not from fear, but from confusion so sharp it felt physical. He moved around the room, testing himself, trying to separate his own thoughts from what he was hearing. His thoughts felt internal, connected, continuous. But the others, they arrived, complete, finished, independent. That night, he didn't sleep. Not because he was afraid, but because he couldn't escape it. Even in silence, the thoughts continued, not constant, not overwhelming, just present. Like someone else sharing space in a place that should have been his alone. The next day, he tested it. Carefully, he sat still, cleared his mind as much as he could, and waited. At first, nothing came. Then slowly, there it is, quiet now. His breath slowed. Because this time, it wasn't reacting to him, it was anticipating him. That changed everything. Because it meant one thing. It wasn't just observing, it was aware. Days passed, and Rowan began to notice something worse. The thoughts didn't come from everywhere. They came from one place. Not physically, but directionally. As if they originated from a single point, somewhere beyond him. Someone. One person. Not many, not random, just one. And whoever it was, they were focused entirely on him. That realization brought something new, not fear, not panic, but pressure. Because being watched is one thing. Being thought about constantly is something else entirely. He began trying to locate it, not by sight, but by feeling. When the thought came, he would pause, close his eyes and try to follow it. Not the words, but the presence behind them. It felt distant, then closer, then distant again, like something adjusting its position, not in space, but in awareness. And then one evening, it changed. The tone shifted. not dramatically, but enough. He's trying to find me. Rowan stopped completely, because that meant something simple and terrifying. It knew not just that he existed, but that he understood. From that moment on, the thoughts became clearer, sharper, more direct, not spoken to him, but no longer ignoring him. He hears it now, not like before. He's closer. Rowan pressed his hand against his temple, his breathing uneven, his thoughts struggling to remain his own. Because the more he listened, the less separate they felt. The boundary between his mind and the other began to blur. And then came the moment he couldn't recover from. He thought something. Simple, clear. What do you want? The silence that followed was immediate, heavy, different, because for the first time, nothing came back. Not a thought, not a response, nothing. And then, slowly, something answered. But it wasn't like before, it wasn't distant, it wasn't separate. It was inside, closer than anything else had been. You. Rowan stepped back instinctively, his hand dropping from his temple as his body reacted before his mind could process it. Because this time, it wasn't observing. It was responding, and it wasn't outside him anymore. The realization came too fast to stop. He hadn't been hearing someone else's thoughts. He had been hearing something that had already entered his own. Something that had been thinking about him, from within. And now I want to ask you something. If you realize that a thought inside your mind didn't belong to you, that it was aware of you and slowly becoming closer than your own thinking, would you try to push it out? Or would you be afraid it was already too late? Tell me your answer in the comments. And if stories like this make you question what truly belongs to your mind, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay for the next story.